What's up, college sports fans? I'm Stucky.
I'm Colin Wilson.
I'm Mike Calabrese.
I'm Maria Marino.
I'm Charlie DiSturco, and we're excited that the Big Bets on Campus brand is launching its very own YouTube channel.
You'll be able to find every episode of the BBOC podcast, live shows, and other college sports content on this new channel.
Not only will the channel be dedicated to betting on college sports, but you'll also be able to find exclusive interviews with former college athletes,
college football power rankings,
and updates on other topics like the brand new College Football 25 video game series and the ins and outs of the recruiting trail all the way down to the transfer portal.
Whether you're into college football,
college basketball,
college baseball, or any of the college sports,
we are the home for college sports, and BBOC is the channel for you.
Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the action. I'll see you there.
Welcome to Links and Locks Action Network's golf betting podcast presented by Bet365. I'm your host, Andy Lack, and I'll be joined alongside Action Golf contributor Tony Sartori for these Best Bets episodes. Tony and I will play 18 holes today, giving our 18 favorite picks for this week's tour event, the FedEx St. Jude's Championship. Before we dive into this week's episode, a reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boosts and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. Okay, Tony, we're on the first tee here for our FedEx St. Jude's Best Bets. Get us started.
All right, I'm going to start us off in the outright market, and I'm going to go after Tony Finau at 35-1. So Finau has proven that he can win at this stage of the tour season. He won the 2021 Northern Trust, which that year served as the opening playoff round. Obviously, different course than TPC Southwind, but I believe that we can still see another playoff victory from Finau at this venue. He finished 5th here in 2022, and he also enters this week in great form. He's made the weekend in 10 of his past 11 tournaments with 4 top 8 finishes over that stretch. He continues to flirt with winning, and I think this could finally be the week that he does so. He ranks 5th on tour this season in greens and regulation percentage from 150 to 175 yards out. I mentioned this because the largest distribution of approach shots, and by a pretty wide margin, at TPC Southwind comes from that 25-yard range. Finally, 3 of the top 5 finishes here last year ranked in the top 9 among the field in greens and regulation percentage, the only statistic or metric in which such a trend occurred. For me this week, I think it's kind of a simple course. Hit your greens, avoid the hazards. You're going to do well, and those are 2 things I think Finau will do well. So that's why I like him at 35-1.
Love that play. I'm going to keep us in the outright market with Collin Morikawa. I got him early at 16-1. I know that number has dropped a little bit. I don't mind him at his current number either. Collin Morikawa, I know the 24th at the Olympics for him was a little disappointing, but it was actually his best approach performance of the season. And now Morikawa has gained over 6 strokes on approach in back-to-back starts. So the vintage aspect of Morikawa's game, the elite iron play, which was the best part of his game when Morikawa was at his best and winning majors, is beginning to peak, is beginning to come back, right? And we are still talking about a player that has made massive improvements to his short game and putting this season. That is an incredibly accurate driver of the ball. This is a player that has not finished outside of the top 25 in a tournament since prior to the Masters. You run down the list of FedEx St. Jude's winners over the years. Lucas Glover, Will Zalatoris, Justin Thomas, all of these players that are elite iron players, not necessarily the best putters in the world. This has been a tremendous spot for those types of players, and Collin Morikawa fits right in line. I am expecting him to get his first 2024 win of the season at the FedEx St. Jude's in Memphis this week.
I absolutely love that. There is not a player on tour that is more due for a win than Morikawa. I'm going to keep us in the market, in that market as well, and go after Corey Connors at 41. I keep going after this guy all year. the Corey Connors takeover is coming. I'm trying to will it into existence. It's just a matter of time. He is, in my opinion, and by a lot of the metrics, the second best ball striker on the planet behind Scottie Scheffler. That alone is reason for optimism. But he also continues to flirt with winning seemingly every week. Corey Connors has not missed a cut since June of last year. That's 27 consecutive tournaments where he's made the weekend. If you include the Olympics, he has 13 top 20 finishes over that stretch. And I'm a believer in the fact that he will eventually reach kind of that next level of, you're bouncing between positions 5 and 15 to finally get up to the contending of the top 3 on Sunday. And I think this week could be the week where he finally does it. He finished 6th here last year, and he had the second best weekend score last year. He went 65-65 over the final 2 rounds. And he even ranks above Scottie in greens and regulation percentage from that 150 to 175 yard distance. So I just think he's one of the best ball strikers in the world. When you're giving me 40 to 1, I'm going to keep taking the bait on Corey Connors.
Yeah, that was my first top 10 wager that I had on my list as well. I bet him plus 275 top 10 on Bet365. I don't have a whole lot to add. I think you laid out the Connors case pretty well, other than the fact that I think one of the staples of TPC Southwind is that it's a pretty challenging ball striking course with a high miss fairway penalty. You got to stay out of that unpredictable Bermuda rough. You got to stay out of the water hazards. It's a very water heavy golf course. Both of those two things play right into Corey Connors' hands. Corey Connors is one of the most accurate drivers of the ball in the field. We talked about the emphasis on elite recent approach play. Connors is hitting his irons beautifully at the moment. And if there's ever a golf course that we've seen in the past, this is another thing I highlighted in the Morikawa case, and you can make the same argument for Connors. This is not a golf course where you typically need to be an elite putter to win, whether it's Lucas Glover, whether it's Will Zalatoris, whether it's Justin Thomas. We've even seen Justin Thomas win here losing strokes putting. This has been a very kind golf course to these non-elite putters, but super awesome drivers of the ball and super awesome approach players as well. That sounds like Corey Connors to me. So I am on him as well, plus 275 in the top 10 market.
Love it. Glad we're on the same page. I'm going to go back to the outright market for a second. And I'm a big believer in if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we hit Aaron Rai outright last week at 35 to 1. I'm going back at him again at 45 to 1 this week, which could be a repeat of history. We saw Lucas Glover go win the Wyndham last year and then go on to win the FedEx the week after. I think Aaron Rai is more than capable of doing the same thing. He's just been absolutely on fire. He has, I believe, he's made the weekend 13 of his past 14 tournaments. He's now finished inside the top 7 in 4 of his past 5, which includes the win last week. There's an argument that he's the hottest golfer entering this week. And I think that this course just, again, like the win, like we saw at Wyndham, it just sets up perfectly for him because he is money from that 150, 175 yard range. He ranks second on tour this season in greens and regulation percentage from that distance, and therefore it shouldn't be shocking that he has gained true total strokes in all 4 of his career appearances at TPC Southwind. Like we saw last week was a course for him. This week is a course for Aaron Rai, and like Glover last year, I don't think it's out of the question. He goes back to back. So at 45 to 1, I like Aaron Rai once again.
Yeah, I like a lot of the parallels there with Lucas Glover, both in terms of what we saw them do at the Wyndham and how their skill set should translate once again to TPC Southwind. I'm going to take us back into the outright market and talk about Patrick Cantlay, who I bet at 30 to 1. You can still find 25s available, which I think is fine on Cantlay. We talked about it with Morikawa. I mean, I don't know if there is a player, maybe outside of Morikawa and Ludwig, that is more due for a win in 2024 than Patrick Cantlay. Given his prior success, given his success in FedEx Cup playoff events in the past, we are talking about a guy who's won at Eastlake. We're talking about a guy who's won multiple BMW championships. We're talking about a player that finished runner-up last year, lost in a playoff to Lucas Glover. This is the time of year where Patrick Cantlay starts to play his best golf. He had a great iron week as well at the Open Championship in his last start. He's coming off his best major performance of his career, a 3rd place finish at Pinehurst, which is also a champion Bermuda golf course. I think something's in the water with Cantlay. I think he's trending in the right direction. And I still think you have the opportunity to buy early on him because he's going to finish off the year with a bang. So I'm going with Patrick Cantlay, 30-1 this week.
Yeah, you can never go wrong with taking Cantlay on a number like 30-1. I love that play. My last outright guy is going to be Sahith Theegala at 50-1. He's just another guy routinely, kind of going back to this Theegala's just a guy who keeps flirting with winning. He's got 7 top 10 finishes over his 21 tournaments this season. And I just love his game. It's all around, and I think it'll work well for TPC Southwind. And it has worked well because he's finished 13th in each of his 2 career appearances at this venue. And again, he's only 26. I know we've talked about him so much on this podcast, but he's only 26 years old and only improving year over year. And I think we could see another big jump from him at this course, considering the recent form, considering the past success at TPC Southwind. And it will also certainly help his cause that he ranks 26 on tour and greens and regulation percentage from 150 to 175. I think the ceiling of Theegala's game is just far too high to pass up 50-1. So that's where my last outright winner play lies.
Love that play. I'm going to finish this off with my final outright as well with Tom Kim 45-1. And I think a lot of the arguments that we made for Morikawa and Corey Connors can easily be applied to Tom Kim. Tom Kim is coming off an 8th place finish at the Olympics where he gained 7.9 strokes on approach, second only to Scottie Scheffler. There is a large historical precedent for players that are an elite recent approach form winning in Memphis. We saw it with JT. We saw it with Zalatoris. We saw it with Glover. I love the way that Tom Kim is hitting his irons at the moment. He is an incredibly accurate driver of the ball as well. We've already seen him win before on Southeastern Bermuda. He won the Wyndham Championship a couple of years ago. He's got 2 top 25 finishes in both of his appearances in Memphis. I love that 45-1 number on Tom Kim this week.
Always love me some Tom Kim, so I love that play. I'm going to go to the top 10 market and go after Alex Noren at 5-1. He's just one of my favorite high floor candidates in the field this week. I'm not sure he possesses the juice to take down the likes of a Scottie or a Xander on Sunday if he had to, but there's in my opinion, a high probability that he at least remains somewhere near that portion of the leaderboard come Sunday. He's made the weekend in 19 of his past 22 tournaments, posting 5 top 10 finishes over that stretch. By napkin math, that makes 5-1 inherently intriguing number right off the bat, let alone in a smaller 70-man field. He finished 12th here in 2019, and he is obviously right now he's playing a much better brand of golf than he was at that time. And it makes sense that he's had success at this course, given that he's above the tour average in greens and regulation percentage from 150 to 175 yards. So I love that number for him, 5-1 Alex Noren to get inside the top 10.
I'm going to go with another top 10 wager in Russell Henley, plus 275. And this guy just fits the bill that we've been talking about all episode in terms of accurate drivers of the ball who are an elite approach form. I was on Russell Henley at 175-1 at the Open Championship. I really thought that ticket had a chance. I was wildly impressed by what I saw from Russell Henley. It felt like he was dying every single putt in the heart on Sunday, and it was coming up just short. But we're still talking about a guy who gained over 4 strokes off the tee at Troon, 6 strokes on approach at Troon. He finished 7th as well at the U.S. Open. This is a guy who has finished top 10 in his last 2 majors. And the Pinehurst one being on Champion Bermuda as well, where he gained 9 strokes putting the last time that he was on Champion Bermuda. I understand that there's a little bit of a number drop with Russell Henley. It is more than well deserved by my numbers. My numbers continue to place this guy as one of the top 20 golfers in the world. And while I'm dubious that he can close the door in this type of field, I thought the plus 275 top 10 number was incredibly fair. So I am on Russell Henley this week, top 10.
Love it. I'm going to go to the top 5, and I'm going to go after Cameron Young at plus 750. This finishing positions market was seemingly made for guys like Cameron Young. He's extremely talented, but has yet to secure that elusive victory on tour. I just trust him way more in this market than I do in, say, the outright one, especially at a plus 750 is a pretty hefty payout. So I think this is definitely worth a dart throw. We've seen him do it multiple times this year. He finished runner-up at the Valspar and 4th at when he was in Palm Beaches. He's gained true total strokes in each of his 2 appearances at TPC Southwind, so it's not like he's incapable of putting together a strong round here. Furthermore, he ranks above the tour average in greens and regulation percentage from 150 to 175 yards. We've seen Cameron Young at his very best. At a very good level. We've seen him at a very poor level as well. I think the ceiling of reaching inside the top 5 is easier to attain than the plus 750 would suggest. So that's where I'm going in the top 5 market.
I have one more top 10 for us. I thought this number was wildly high for the upside that he provides. I'm going with Sam Burns plus 400. This is a player that has lost in a playoff here in the past. We know the upside that he possesses on Bermuda greens. He has been one of the best Bermuda putters in this field over the last 3 years. I like the way that he played at the 3M Open as well. He gained strokes off the tee and on approach. The ball striking starting to come around with Burns. This is another player that I'm fairly surprised has not capitalized on a victory this year. I would not be surprised if that changed in the slightest bit. I'm going with Sam Burns plus 400 top 10.
Love it. All right, so I had to have this guy on my card somehow, and there's no way in hell I was taking plus 350. So I'm going to back Scottie Scheffler in the first round leader market at 12 to 1. While there's obviously more volatility in this market, which is why it's not plus 350 and 12 to 1, Scottie Scheffler could go wire to wire and nobody would even bat an eye this week. There's just no denying Scottie. I know Xander has the 2 majors now, so now there's a little bit of question of who had the better tour season, but still, overall, there's no denying that Scottie is still the best golfer on the planet. Including the Olympics, Scheffler has won 8 of his past 18 tournaments with 8 additional top 10 finishes. So he's finished outside the top 10 just twice over the past 8 months, which is just utterly absurd. And we know he can finish tournaments, but he also ranks first on tour this season in round 1 scoring average. So he starts them just as well as he finishes them. So again, that's just why I'm not taking plus 350 against this field in the outright. If he does it, but I'd much rather just spend my money on 12 to 1 in the first round leader market.
I'm going to take us, I have a couple first round leaders I'll finish off with, but I'm going to take us into the top 20 market. And I was pretty shocked to get plus money on this guy in a 70-man field. I'm going with Sepp Straka plus 150, top 20. I love his course fit here, and it should not come as a surprise that he's played well here in the past. He lost in that playoff to Will Zalatoris. I thought he had an excellent. I thought he was going to be the last man standing this week. Narrowly missed out on the victory, but he's performed incredibly well at these water-heavy, high-miss fairway golf courses. You look at PGA National, another golf course where Sepp Straka has won. That's another southeastern Bermuda water-heavy golf course that emphasizes accuracy off the tee and middle iron play. This type of golf course just perfectly fits Sepp Straka's skill set. You play him on accuracy over distance courses. You play him on water-heavy courses. You play him on southeastern Bermuda. You play him on middle iron courses. Sepp Straka plus 150, top 20. One of my favorite plays on the board.
Love it. I'm gonna go back to the first round leader market and go after Tommy Fleetwood at 35 to 1. He's always one of my favorite targets in this market. The guy is seemingly cursed on American soil. I know I've said 100 times when competing down the stretch on Sundays, but that does not take away that ceiling wise. He is one of the best golfers in the world. No question about it. I trust him right now. I just trust him on Thursday way more than I do on a Sunday, which is cemented by the fact that he ranks in the top 3rd on tour this season in round 1 scoring average. He also possesses a tremendous track record at this venue, finishing 3rd last season and 4th in 2019. The results are there. I just never trust him to close out here. So if I'm backing Fleetwood anyway this week, it's going to be in the first round leader market at 35 to 1.
Yeah, I will join you in the first round leader market, and I am on Rory McIlroy 18 to 1, a name I'm surprised we haven't mentioned yet. I know we've both been a fan of Rory in the first round leader market. He's a player that always gets off to hot starts. I prefer the 18 to 1 in the first round leader market far more than the 9 to 1 outright number. Rory's been great at this golf course. I know it's a bit more of an accuracy over distance golf course, but it has not reflected in the ball striking numbers whatsoever. Rory has been dominant off the tee at this golf course. He's hit his irons incredibly well here. One of his best ball striking performances of the season came last year at TPC Southwind, and one of his best ball striking performances of this year came last week at the Olympics. Rory gained over 10 strokes ball striking last week in Paris. This is the time of year that Rory starts to play some really, really good golf. There's a reason why he's won at East Lake 3 times in the past. I think Rory's going to heat up this time of year and potentially give Scottie and Xander a real run for their money in the FedEx Cup. I think he gets it started here in Memphis, gets off to a hot start at 9 to 1 or 18 to 1, in the first round later market.
I love it. My final first round leader play and final play of the week is Adam Scott, first round leader at 50-1. I couldn't quite get to the window on him to win the tournament outright against this field. Again, same thing I said earlier. It's just like if it's him versus Scottie and Xander on Sunday, I don't trust that. But I think his floor is high enough for him to compete in any of the rounds when isolated. He enters this tournament in great form. He's made the weekend in 11 of his past 12 tournaments, posting 4 top 15 finishes over that stretch. And I was talking about this with Theegala too. Scott's been playing a terrific all-around game. He's hitting the ball far, which I know doesn't matter as much on this course, but he's remaining accurate both off the tee and on the approach, which does matter a lot at this course. He's also been sinking putts and scrambling well when needed, and that could be important as well. Another reason to like Scott this week is course fit. He has 3 top 10 finishes through 5 career appearances at TPC Southwind. The trend shouldn't be surprising given that he ranks above the tour average in greens and regulation percentage from that 150, 175 yard range I keep talking about. Just he's been such a constant like making it to the weekends this year, but he hasn't made that jump once there. So therefore I just trust him way more on Thursday than I do over the weekend. So Scott, 51 first round leader is my final play this week.
Love that. I'm going to finish this off in the first round later market with a little bit more of a dart throw. I'm going with Ben Griffin, 66-1. This is a guy I've been riding. I was on him top 20 last week at the Wyndham. That worked out well for us. I love the way that this guy plays on Southeastern Bermuda. Last week at the Wyndham, had that strong finish for us. He gained over 8 strokes in approach at the Wyndham. And we talk about players in elite approach form. All the players that I have bet this week, pretty much every single player that I have played this week is a great iron player, hitting his irons well. And you are not going to find a better iron player at this price than Ben Griffin. I thought 66-1 for a player, that can really heat up on approach. That's the #1 Bermuda grass putter in this field over the last 3 years. Was a pretty wild number in a 70-man field. So Ben Griffin, 66-1, first round leader. That'll do it for our best bets episode of the FedEx St. Jude's Championship. Before we get out of here, a final reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. As a reminder, our action experts, Spencer Aguiar, Nick Bretwish, return with host Roberto Arguello tomorrow for our FedEx St. Jude's Championship betting preview right here on the Links and Locks podcast. So for Tony Sartori, I'm your host, Andy Lack, and we'll see you back here next week on the Links and Locks podcast presented by Bet365.